Module 3, Identifying Chemical Hazards Through Labels. What labels tell us about a chemical?
Iborn. In this module, we will be talking about labels on chemicals we use in a house. These chemicals include cleaners, detergents, insecticides like mosquito repellent sprays, sprays for flies, cockroaches, rat poison, and if you maintain a garden, of course, a lot of pest controls and chemical fertilizers. In addition, if you are someone who does small computer repairs or vehicle repairs at home, there will be more different types of chemicals in your house. Each of these chemicals come with a set of instructions on handling, storing and disposal. In this module, we will look at a few labels and instructions given on those chemicals.
The label of any product contains all the important information: the product name, nutrient facts, ingredients, directions to prepare if it's a food item, and directions for use if it's a chemical. It will also include warnings, safe use signs, and so on. Here in this session, we'll talk about some important warning signs and other information found on labels of household chemicals that are important in preventing chemical exposure. This is a label of a dishwashing liquid. First, I must disclaim that I do not promote or demote any of the products displayed here, and they are displayed for the sole purpose of educating. Now, this is the brand name and other illustrations on what the product is. Here in this section, you can find the directions for use, ingredients, warning signs, and instructions to dispose. So this is the most important part to refer in order to ensure chemical safety of your family. We'll go to details in the next slides. Let's look at some symbols. Now I should mention here that different countries have different norms for indicating warning labels and safe use icons. Whatever that is, you will always find them on the label. This is one of the ways we find warnings. We also call these symbols GHS, or the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. This symbol indicates that the content is an irritant. You often find this symbol on household detergents. The content can be acutely toxic or harmful. It can cause irritation to the skin, eyes, or respiratory tract, and skin contact can result in an allergic response. It's also hazardous to the ozone layer. Corrosive. You can see this one on most household cleaners. The content can burn the skin or eyes. If swallowed, it can damage the throat and stomach. Also corrosive to metals. Flammable. These days you may often see this on sanitizer bottles since they contain alcohol. The product or its fumes can catch fire easily if placed near heat, flames or sparks. It also warns that rags used with this product may start to burn on their own. Environmental hazard. This means that the content is toxic to the organisms living in waters and can cause long-lasting effects in the environment. So why does it matter? What's the importance of knowing all these warning signs and symbols? This is a washing powder, and the label on this product says this is an irritant. You often see this symbol on dishwashing liquids, cleaner detergents, floor cleaners, and other types of cleaners. So if you get a rash or funny skin condition, make sure you use gloves when using that or change the detergent. A corrosive. It would always be a good practice to wear gloves in using it. Also, you must always check if the lid is secured or closed tightly after each time you use it. And store these chemicals in closed cupboards. Here are some examples where you find them. Whitening agents, toilet cleaners, washing powder, and ammonium cleaner. Here you can see another symbol, environmental hazard. That means when you apply these products, you should make sure to use them in smaller quantities and dilute it with a lot of water before releasing to the environment. Flammable chemicals should never be kept near fireplaces. Also, you should be very cautious of if you are going near or working with fire. These are some products in which you see this symbol. Alcohol cleaners, air spray, air freshener, and a cleaner spray. This is another type of symbol we often find on detergents and cleaners, like this softener and ammonium cleaner. We call them safe use icons. Let's see what each of them means. This safe use icon is very common and it says keep out of reach of children. This one here is to say keep away from eyes, and in case if it gets into your eyes, rinse thoroughly with water. This icon here says to rinse hands after use. Do not ingest, and in case if you did, seek immediate medical advice. If you see this icon, do not change storage containers. Products with this icon should not be mixed with other products, because sometimes people think they can get better results by mixing 2-3 chemicals. But you should know that all chemicals cannot be mixed that way, as they produce toxic fumes, toxic liquids, and may even cause explosions if they are mixed. This icon is to say use with dry hands, because the content may react with water and produce a different material. If you have a sensitive or damaged skin, be cautious of chemicals with this icon. It says that you shouldn't keep in contact with this chemical for a long time. Here this one asks you to keep the place ventilated while using this product. So there are a few more, and you can find them if you visit this site, which is also given under further readings at the end of this session. It also gives the type of products and labels these should contain. So if you are in a country where such labels are not used, then you can see the products you should be cautious of. This is an illustrated label of a herbicide. Here you can see the commercial name, and here is the active ingredient. Here is the proportion or the percentage of the active ingredient in the product. Then in this section, you can see the safe use instructions. The warning comes as a signal word instead of a GHS label we discussed earlier. You can also find other details like registration numbers, establishment number, and the quantity. This is a label of a fungicide sold in Sri Lanka. You can see all those information we just discussed. This is the active ingredient and the percentage, so that you know the amount you should use depending on the area or the type of cultivation it's applied. This is the warning or the signal word, poison, and here you can see some safety instructions. Must keep in a safely locked place. Read the safety instructions before opening the package. Usually these products carry information such as what type of crops it's applied on, mixing quantities, and types of pathogens or pests it's used on. What does it mean by warning as a poison? First, better if you can avoid using such chemicals and go for alternative pest control methods and organic mixtures. But if you have to use it, you must take all precautions to avoid any kind of contamination. You must wear protective gears in applying pesticides like gloves, goggles, mask, and a full body covering clothes that should be immediately taken off once you finish applying the pesticide. You must only use the instructed amount. For example, 1 tablespoon in 1 liter of water. Using more chemical will not give you any better result. Safety instructions provide all necessary information you need to know, including testing a product, allergic reactions if it's a cosmetic, and the measures to be taken if it gets into the eyes while mixing, or if it spills on your skin, or if it accidentally swallowed by anyone, especially kids. So, it's important to read the label and the instructions carefully before using any chemical. Like this hair dye. Yes, you must read this piece of paper before applying it. But what if you don't get any of these symbols or instructions on your product? Like this one. Make sure you use at least a pair of gloves and a mask when you use any cleaning product, and store all chemicals in a safely locked place away from a fireplace and away from children. The information on label also gives you an opportunity to be animal cruelty free if you find such symbols on your products. Say if your shampoos and other skincare products contains a cruelty free label like this, or are produced with herbal ingredients or synthetic chemicals. Also, it would be a good practice to see if your scrubs and toothpaste have microbeads, because they are a big problem and a dangerous source of water pollution today. Not only because they are tiny non-degradable plastics that could come with your fish and salt, but also because their tiny bodies can absorb some other hazardous chemicals like persistent organic pollutants that are already present in water, and we in turn ingest them. Since we are talking about contamination pathways, it's also worth noting the labels of some food items because they give us the option to select what we eat. The serving sizes and nutrients description on a label make it easy for you to decide the types of food and amounts you should be eating and you should be giving to your children and elderly people. For example, an active child needs more protein and carbohydrates. In contrary, an elderly person needs food with less carbs, less fat and less salt. Such food habits can save you from number of non-communicable diseases such as cholesterol and diabetics. Another chemical to keep an eye for are food additives. In the ingredients list, you can see these numbers starting with an E. These E numbers are a nomenclature for chemical substances approved to use in food in Europe. So the letter E refers to Europe and the number is the chemical substance. Of these, 100 to 199 are colors, 200 to 299 are preservatives, 300 to 399 are antioxidants, and the list goes on. The idea of these additives is controversial. Some studies shows that some can affect the activity and behavior of children, while some prove that it's a misconception. However, certain countries have banned some of these additives and in some countries they come with a warning label. so that we as consumers can select whether to buy it or not. Like this one here. These are the numbers, and here it says may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. So here is the summary of what we discussed under this module. Labels carry information on chemicals in the products and instructions for safe use, storing and disposal. Warning labels help you to decide on safety measures to be taken and safety gears you should be wearing in applying a certain product. In applying garden chemicals, you must always wear safety gears like a mask, gloves, goggles and a separate fully covered clothing. Labels help you to be animal cruelty free, choose herbal products, avoid water pollution through selecting products free from microbeads, and reduce health effects of a product. Labels in food products help you to select foodstuff according to your nutritional need. You can select to avoid or accept food additives by looking at the ingredients list on a label. Here are some references to read more under this topic. In our next module, we'll talk about preventing household chemical contamination through correct storing and disposal of these chemicals.